Hello, and welcome to Candidates Up Front. This is a public interest election program of Berks Community Television and the League of Women Voters of Berks County. Our May 16th primary election is coming up. Democrats and Republicans will vote for judges, school directors, and county, township, borough, and city officials. The deadline to register to vote is May 1st. To check your voting status, go to votepa.gov. That's vote.pa.gov. You can register, change your party, locate your polling place, or apply for an absentee or mail-in ballot. The deadline to register is May 1st. The deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot is May 9th. The League is interviewing those candidates who wanted to be interviewed in contested races. For each race, the candidates will get the same basic questions and the same amount of time to answer them.
Hello, I'm Renee Dietrich, a member of the League of Women Voters of Berks County. The featured office today is Reading City Council. Council members enact legislation, set the budget, and confirm appointments of the city manager and members of boards. They need to have lived in their district 1 year prior to the primary election and must retain residency in their district. They serve part-time for a 4-year term, and the salary is $5,000 a year. There are 2 Democratic candidates in District 2, Jamie Baez Jr. and Janice Grant. District 2 is in southeast Reading. Now, each candidate's views are their own and not those of the League or BCTV. Today, our candidate is Jamie Baez Jr. Welcome. Let's start by asking Jamie to tell the viewers about himself and why you are running, and that's 1:30 seconds. So, Jamie?
Yes, and Renee, I want to thank BCTV for having me, and Renee, you as well. Thank you for the question. So a little bit about myself. I was born in Lancaster, raised in Reading. I got to live about 3 years in Puerto Rico and a year in Indiana, and so I always say that has provided me a diverse background. And so that's a little bit about myself and where I come from, right? And the reason that I'm running, right, there are a couple of reasons why I'm running, but the main reason is I always go back to my grandfather and remembering myself in his car, and he would have the AC on blast, and he would also have the radio on blast. So while I was in the back freezing, I would hear him listening to politics, may he rest in peace, and he would hear the debates that were going on. And so although he is not with us, his memory lives within me. And so that is one of the main reasons why I'm running. I've always been politically inclined, and so when I'm sitting in the car at times, I start listening to politics or debates, and I always have those friends or family members that say, "Why don't you put some music on?" And I just think that it's important to know what's going on in the world around us, and it's important to be involved with our government. And so that is one of the reasons why I'm running. Thank you.
Okay, let's go on to the next one. Tell us what your education and background experience is that you bring to this position.
Yep. And so finishing high school, I did go to massage therapy and therapeutic bodywork school. I went to be a massage therapist. After graduating, I found quickly that that I'd rather be on the table receiving a massage rather than providing it. I'm a social butterfly, and so I love interacting with humans. Being that I love to interact with humans, when you're in a massage room, it's kind of quiet. You want to concentrate. But I learned many things being at the massage therapy and therapeutic bodywork school. That's where I first got to see The Secret. If no one has seen it, I highly suggest The Secret. It speaks on what you think about, you bring about, and being able to think positively. But other than high school and massage therapy, I was able to start off as a janitor at Park City, taking trash out, cleaning tables. And from there, I went on to work for Dart Container Factory, where I was a packer. And then from packer, I went to being a line mechanic, so currently customer service, in which I work in. So that's a little background about me.
Thank you. Now, how about your personal qualities that can help you be an effective council person?
I think being that I am a diverse person with different roots and different nationalities makes me unique to this position. I think it has opened up my mind to many areas on the difficulties that everyday Americans go through. You know, living in Oak Brook, I got to see those struggles within my own family. And so I think that that gives me an insight into people that would have the same mindset and people of the city of Reading. I think that background would help me a lot.
Okay, now what do you see as the biggest issues that face Reading in the next 4 years?
One of the main issues listening to residents of the city are the parking. And that's not only the tickets. I mean, in Reading, our tickets are $45. And if you look at Philadelphia, a much bigger city, their parking tickets are only $30. And so I think that's something that is important to a lot of residents. Speaking to them, that's what I hear. I think crime is another one. We see what's going on with gun violence. So I think that that's huge. I think that if we need to be supportive of our first responders, and we also need to have proper training for them as well. So there needs to be a balance within the city, but that's a lot of what I hear from the residents that I speak with. And so I think community engagement is my number one priority. Community engagement, we need to be engaged with our residents. We need to be engaged in making sure that they are knowledgeable and that they are aware of what is going on within our city. And so that way they can be more involved and their voices may be heard.
Your district is in Southeast Reading. What do you think the most important concerns are for the people who live in your district?
Well, as the previous question, speaking to people specifically in my district, what I hear a lot is on the parking authority and the tickets. I mean, you think about it, you know, let's say someone that is already struggling, they get a ticket, let's say they can't pay the ticket, or maybe now because they're digital, they're not receiving it in the mail. And so then that ticket goes up, and then next thing you know, they have a boot on their car, and from having a boot on their car, that may be the only means of transportation for them to get to work. And the fact that maybe they can't then utilize that vehicle to get to work means that they might miss a day of work. And so it really is a trickle effect. And so that's the main concern I've been hearing. Other than, of course, gun violence, parking is very important to the residents in that area. And so I think that's something that we need to tackle.
Okay. Now, there are many boards and commissions in the city, and the mayor has a chance to appoint people to them. And then the city council gets to approve or disapprove them. So the question is, when council is approving a mayoral appointment, what criteria would you consider in approving or disapproving that appointment?
I think the education of the person is important. I also think their experience is important. I am an individual that I like to look at all aspects of life. So I would want to see and maybe possibly have an interview with that individual to see where they stand, depending on what committee it is, or depending on what position it is, to see what it is that they can bring to the table and what solutions they can offer. When, you know, I'm a person who I went to massage therapy school. You know, I don't have a master's or a doctor's degree, but my experience in the different aspects from janitorial to factory to customer service has provided me insight into how to serve the community as well. And so I think life experiences is important as well. And that's something that I would take into account.
Thank you. Now, blighted properties are a big issue in the city. Some say they should be fixed. Some say they should be redeveloped or repurposed. How would you address the issue of blighted properties in the city of Reading?
When I first came back to Reading, I want to say about 8 to 10 years ago, there was an opportunity at the sheriff's auction that I had with a home at 417 South 9th Street. And I want to just say, it was a blessing in disguise. It was a property that was a blighted property. It was not taken care of for many years. And at that sheriff's auction, you know, I will never forget the number, $1,940. Now, that's not including all the investments that had to be done to that property, but I think that that's a great way for, people like myself to get into and take that challenge on and find the solution of fixing it and providing that opportunity so that way they can make those buildings better. But I also think that City Council and the city and the administration need to take steps to also invest in certain properties to bring about, we can make them better.
Okay. Now, most of the time, Reading is a safe place to work, live, and visit. Yet, there seems to be increasing violence related to drugs, gangs, and disagreements hurt its neighborhoods and reputation. What would you suggest the city could do to thwart or stop the violence?
Well, my number one priority, community engagement. We need to be involved. Our police force needs to be involved. I live right there on the block of Cherry between 9th and 10th Street, and it's always nice when the kids are out playing basketball and you see a law enforcement come out and he plays basketball with them and he spends that time with the community. And I think that that's important from all of us, not just from our police force, our firefighters, first responders, but I think from us as sitting on city council, that's something that we need to do is be involved. And I praise Melissa Ventura, our councilwoman. I see her going out into the businesses there like the Plug on Penn Street, and I'm inspired by that because that's something that we need is community engagement. So that way we can see for ourselves firsthand what it is that the community needs, and we can hear out the residents in the area. So that way they can express the many difficulties or challenges that they're going through so that we can find solutions for them.
Okay, now let's talk about money. Budget decisions are hard. Sometimes the services that people enjoy, like parks and libraries, are underfunded. So things that people need, like police and street repair, can be properly funded. How would you prioritize spending when you vote on the budget?
I think education is the most important part, right? It's the most important within our society. So education is fundamental, reading is fundamental. And so I think that is top priority. And then from there I think in order for city council members or councilors to make a decision, they first have to see a list of challenges that we have. And from that list, then determine which should be the priority. But education should be number one.
Okay. And how would you encourage public participation in the issues that are being decided by City Council?
Well, town halls, and now summer's coming around, block parties, providing information to residents, making sure that we're out there the same way that we do door knocking to be able to gather votes. It's the same way we can go out and do door knocking to help inform our residents of the city. The same way we can send palm cards to their homes. There's nowadays everything is internet, so social media from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. We need to get the word out, and we need to make sure that people are informed of what's happening within our city, so that way they want to be involved, and that way they have a source. They have a route to be able to communicate to their councilors of their district.
Now, we talked about priorities for the city, but what are your personal priorities for the coming term?
I think I want everybody thriving. I want everybody to have the opportunity to be involved, especially in our government. Sometimes when I'm looking either through Facebook or when I'm at the city council meetings in person, I'd like to see more residents involved and want them to care more. And I think that, we have to make the way. We have to be the light at the end of the tunnel and show them that it's okay for them to be involved and that they want to be involved, and community engagement needs to be huge,
Okay, thank you. Now, what are your ideas to make Reading an attractive place for business?
Well, I'll tell you what, Renee, the first thing I think about is the purpose of the pagoda, which is in District 2, to bring tourists there. I wish that I could just hand over whatever funds were needed to create a hotel there. I mean, I think that the first thought or the thought process that they had with the pagoda was to create a hotel up there. And so I think we need to keep that in mind, because who wouldn't want to sit at the very top of the pagoda having the view of the city, right? But I think it's important that we keep businesses on Penn Street and that we bring more businesses to Penn Street. And there should be no reason why Penn Avenue and Penn Street look completely different. And so I think that it's important that we bring about people to come into our city so that they can strive, you know.
So how about making it attractive for families to move here? What would you do?
Well, one of the things that I heard from one of the residents, right, and something that I didn't think about was, you have property owners who take care of their properties. They fix them up, and by fixing them up, then all of a sudden their taxes are raised because of the fixings that they have done on their property. And then you have property owners who might live out of state, and they don't really take care of their properties, and yet their taxes don't go up. And so we need to incentivize property owners who are fixing their properties. The city council needs to come up with a plan to have some kind of incentive for property owners who are doing something for their properties, and not just raise their taxes when they do fix it. You know, we need to then think of a way to get the ones who aren't fixing them to do something about those properties. You know, sometimes when they live out of state, they tend to forget that they have a property, I think, in Reading, in the city. And so I think that it's important that for families that we give them incentives for the good things that they do.
It's expensive to run for public office. How are you financing your campaign?
Well, I got to say, I have a strong support of family and friends. And I'm very appreciative of them. I wouldn't be running had it not been for my family and friends that believe in me and that are there to support me. And so they have been the main machine behind behind me and supporting me. And so I'm very appreciative of them. And I think that grassroots is key, and having people with like-minded people support me is important for me as well.
Okay. Just want to remind our viewing audience that there is a website called vote411.org, which is sponsored partly by the League. So if you don't know about your candidates, like for township and borough, go to vote411.org, because the candidates running for the school districts in Berks County are putting information on Vote 411. So if you want to be prepared when you vote, use vote411.org. Now, Jamie, please give us your closing statement. Tell our viewers, why should they vote for you for City Council?
So I think it's important to note that with the positions that I've held, I think the majority of Americans either work in custodial jobs, factory jobs, customer service jobs. I understand you. I get it. I know the struggle. From Oak Brook, living in housing, to not having a father. I understand you, and I get you. You know, and I think that I relate to many residents, and I want to say to them, I relate to you, and I know the everyday struggles, and I want you to know that I'm here to fight for you, and I want to fight for a better Reading. I think if we're stronger today, or if we're united today, we're going to be stronger tomorrow. And so I'm here for you, and I want to make sure that we're all thriving. You know, I see a lot of us that are surviving, and I think we can all thrive. And that starts with community engagement. That starts with education and making sure that we're out there, making sure that you are aware of what programs and possibilities are out there. And I want everybody to know that, as my mom always told me, yes, you can. Yes, you can. And so don't ever lose faith, and always remember that what you think about, you can bring about. And so I'm here for you.
Thank you, Jamie Baez Jr., for sharing your views with us today. Viewers, please remember that there's another candidate for City Council on the Democratic ballot, Janice Grant, and you can vote for one. So thank you for watching Candidates Up Front.
You will find the Candidates Upfront interviews on BCTV and on its website and its YouTube page. And for more information on candidates, you can go to the League's online voters guide, vote411.org. Or you can contact Berks County Election Services, elections@countyofberks.com. Their phone number is 610-478-6490. And thank you for watching Candidates Up Front.